Yo, it's Blake, and let's watch movies. All right. So, we're going to be talking about the Cloverfield franchise today. Now, if for any reason you have not seen Cloverfield, 10 Cloverfield Lane, or the Cloverfield Paradox, this is your only spoiler warning. Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane have been out for quite a long time. So I'm sure you can find them on DVD, if not the internet. Cloverfield Paradox, I'm pretty sure, is a Netflix only. But I'm sure you can find that on the internet as well. So, okay, we're gonna do this in order they came out. So I'm going to start with Cloverfield. Well, when this first started, it was just a simple monster flick. You had no earthly idea that it was going to be something more than that. So when I watched it, I enjoyed it because I love monster films. I mentioned last time on the show that I grew up on Godzilla films and all kinds of different monster films. And this one was it kind of turned me off when I looked at it because it was all on handheld video camera.
Mm-hmm. That found footage.
Yeah, and I was like, I hate that. But this was like the only film where I enjoyed that. Kind of helped with like the thrill and the kind of horror-esque to it. And when you watch it, it's kind of simply that, a monster film. But you know people, they will take something and they will complicate it out the wazoo to the point where it's no longer a simple monster film anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with most films, especially monster films, like you don't look at a Godzilla film and see anything, more behind it. It's Godzilla coming in. He fights a monster or he'll destroy the city. That's it.
Although I did like the new Godzilla, the whole backstory with Bryan Cranston and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You watched that one? I like that they're taking monster movies and they're like doing it from a different perspective. Because it's usually like the citizen sees the monster and he screams and they're just running away trying to survive. But I like 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like, you said they're like making it more complex and stuff. I like that. Like, make it a horror movie and then keep that suspense until, the last one. The last possible opportunity.
Well, it's like, I don't think the people who made Cloverfield, call him this. There wasn't really a designated movie name for the monster. So people have been calling him Clover or Clovey.
Yeah.
So when they talked about him, they'd use Clovey or Clover. They analyzed things and saw things that I didn't even see in the movie. Apparently, there's the director and the story writers released something after the movie, going deep into this.
Yeah. Did you watch theories and stuff about it? Did you see the slushy thing?
Slusho? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which was in Paradox, if
Yeah.
you didn't see the little bobblehead guy holding Slusho. But the biggest thing I think about Cloverfield, the thing about these movies is that they do not answer questions very well, but will give you 17,000 new ones every film that comes out. It's like with the first one, the biggest question about it is that at the end of the film, whenever the camera's kind of being all wonky, jumping from different time frames and stuff like that, it was when the main couple, I can't remember their names, but they were on like a Ferris wheel at like a park, and it was a very split thing. You can't even see it with your naked eye, just barely. There's something that comes out of the sky and like lands in the ocean, and the theories that come out of that were just insane.
Yeah.
They were like that's like a satellite falling from the sky, or that's what woke Clover, or that is Clover, or blah blah blah. They didn't confirm nor deny anything.
And they don't really go into depth about the monsters either. Like, It's just theories that kind of tell you the backstory. Like, there's theories that it's not an alien and it's actually, like, was dormant under the ocean and stuff, and that's why that satellite woke it up.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like they don't, like you said, they don't say anything. Because, I mean, they did release this thing where this company had, like, an oil rig, and, like, the oil rig sank the same day that the monster showed up or something like that. But they didn't say that's what woke the monster or anything.
And the press for Cloverfield was like that a lot. Like, it was a lot of fake news, not to be, like, political, but it was a lot of fake news, like a lot of fake newscasts and that oil rig scenario. And, like, a lot of people thought it was real for a little bit, and then when Cloverfield comes out, you're like, oh, okay, that's all related to this movie, which is crazy to do that as a press. It's really clever.
Yeah. Now, 10 Cloverfield Lane, this is the movie that confused the world because it wasn't a direct sequel to Cloverfield, but it had some relation because same director, and they called it 10 Cloverfield Lane. Now, with this one, it was just a big ball of confusion throughout the entire thing. Did you see it?
Yeah, I don't think J.J. Abrams directed that. I think he just had his hands in it a little bit, like mildly, and that's where those like brief connections are.
Oh.
Same thing with Paradox. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I heard about that. I
think the only ones he actually directed from Cloverfield is Cloverfield.
Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. J.J. Abrams is really good. I really like him. Like, he did Rogue One. No, not Rogue One. That was Gareth Edwards.
Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens.
And he did some Star Treks too, which were great.
Oh yeah, but see, this one took a different turn. I think something's wrong with the atmosphere. You can't go outside or you'll die. And like in this bunker with the creepiest guy in the world,
John Goodman.
Yeah, John Goodman. Gotta love him. And it kind of turned into that creepy psychopath type.
It's like a psychological thriller.
And just when you think that that's all it is, wait till the end. Freaking aliens show up. And it's just like, what does it... Yeah. What? And it's only for like 5 to 10 minutes. And they don't say anything.
Yeah.
Of course, they're really good movies. Like, they're really good. Even though you're asking what, why, and where throughout the entire thing.
They're all shot very well. Editing is amazing.
Now, Paradox. People have told me that this has answered questions. It has answered no questions.
For me, anyway.
For us. I mean, nothing but more questions and theories.
That whole movie was just questions. I was like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And then finally it gets revealed.
It was so great, though. But there was just so many things happening during it that you can't just be like, why? Why is this happening?
So, you watch Paradox. So what would you say is the most revealing scene? Like, something you learned about the most? Like, what... I don't know, shedded some light on the Cloverfield franchise for you in that movie?
I'd have to say the very end, when they fell back down to Earth and then Clover jumped out of the clouds. That was most revealing. Well, I kind of thought it was him the entire time. And, of course, I guess another big revealing thing for me is when they jumped to another Earth. And then it was like, this is where 10 Cloverfield Lane's going to come in. Because with the first Cloverfield, there were no mentions of aliens. And like he said, that was not a direct sequel to Cloverfield.
You don't think 10 Cloverfield Lane is just like a post-sequel? Like after the math?
It could be.
I think my take on it all is that it's all on the same Earth. Earth 1, as we'll call it. And then 10 Cloverfield Lane's just like the aftermath. But there is a character in Cloverfield Paradox that has the same last name as John Goodman's character, including 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I saw that.
The guy talking, he's like trying to warn everyone about sea monsters, and everyone's just not taking them lightly. And the one thing that probably could change, I think, if 10 Cloverfield Lane is in that parallel Earth, is that John Goodman, or that character, because it didn't say his first name, it just said his last name. So it could possibly be the same character, just like maybe at a younger age, because 10 Cloverfield Lane would be in the future. So maybe in Earth 2 or Earth 1, he is trying to get everyone to realize that what's happening about this monster if we continue to try to go to different universes or parallel universes. And then in Earth 2, which is your theory that 10 Cloverfield Lane takes place in Earth 2, John Goodman is just a changed character because it's a different Earth. So instead of, like broadcasting it to everyone that there is a monster, he just kind of knows there is, and he builds his own bunker and just secludes himself. Like, there's two ways you can go about it if you know that type of information, You can try to warn everyone, or you can try to protect yourself. I feel like if 10 Cloverfield Lane is in Earth 2, that's like a huge, plot.
The thing about all of these theories, the problem is, all of them could be true, but you will get no answers if there are. I mean, because
100% correct.
I mean, my theory is that, 10 Cloverfield Lane might be on Earth 2, but with the station, what they did with that is that, my theory is that they merged the two Earths in a way that now they all exist in the same area, because they didn't exactly go out and say it. But there was this little girl in Paradox that was lost or something, and she looked super lost. Which I had my theory that she was from the other Earth and got transported here, because that one girl from the station was transported into the wiring itself. So
yeah, it could mold together, meld together.
And the biggest thing that I literally thought of this on the way here to record this. It didn't occur to me till 10 minutes ago. The thing about Clover from Cloverfield is that they wanted to stress that this monster is a juvenile. It's not exactly grown up. Yeah. And when it's roaring, it's not roaring as a I'm going to eat you. It's screaming for help. It's screaming for an adult
okay.
So, and one of the biggest questions about Paradox is that when the Cloverfield monster came out of the clouds, he's much bigger.
Yeah. He's reaching the clouds.
And my theory is that
he's bigger than skyscrapers this time.
My theory is that either this is in the future and Clovey has grown to his full size, or this is a totally different monster and it's a parent or an adult of some sort.
Yeah.
When me and my friend watched it on Super Bowl night, we spent literally 2 to 3 hours theorizing. And we were thinking, what if the monsters weren't on the planet at all? And when they messed, when this machine messed with literally time and space, there was another planet, another Earth, let's say, where humans don't even exist, but these creatures, these monsters, rule the planet. It transported a few of them onto here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. That seems far out there.
I know, but, I like to theorize because it's kind of cool,
Because, there's a lot of, I don't even know if you can call it real evidence, but, the oil rig and stuff. And isn't there a reoccurring company in the Paradox, or in the Cloverfield franchise? And it has, a little symbol. I'm not sure.
There is.
I think it's a Chinese or Japanese company.
I can't remember the name.
But, I don't know. I feel like if you have that company in there, there's something that's got to be going on with it. Maybe, because isn't it the same company that owns the oil rig that gets destroyed? So I think they might have something to do with that monster. I don't know.
And you may be right.
It's all theories.
That's like Slusho. There's a big thing that they went out of their way to create a product and put it into it. And they're saying Slusho is the secret ingredient is some form of algae that they mixed into it that makes you want more. And some people say that can be interpreted into some...
Yeah, it could possibly, that algae could, if these monsters do live underwater, that algae could be reacting to them or maybe coming from them or something. Maybe it's like their eggs or something, and like they're just upset.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know.
Right. So that's the thing with a paradox. And if you don't know what a paradox is, I'll give you an example. This sentence is false. True or false?
I don't know. This sentence is false. That's hard. I don't know how to answer that.
Either way, just say one or the other.
There's nothing. I'm going to say false. Just a wild
You
guess.
are correct, and you are wrong.
Okay. How?
There is no answer. You are both correct and you're both wrong. So that's the thing with a paradox. This sentence is false. That's correct. But it's also wrong because it's true that this sentence is false. That's the whole thing with a paradox. Whatever you think or whatever that's going on is both right and wrong. So that kind of helps with the whole 10 Cloverfield Lane thing. You got aliens, while in Cloverfield you've got. So which is it? Well, you're both right and wrong. It's confusing, but that's in an essence that's the simplest I can put it without going deep into like an explanation.
I always thought a paradox was just like doing the same thing over and over and over again and trying to get out of that loop, but still being stuck in that loop forever. You're in a paradox.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of are stuck in a loop with that, with what I just said.
Yeah.
Because you're going back and forth, true and false, true and false, true and false. Yes, no, yes, no.
But
yes,
you
no.
can't get out of that loop because none of them are right.
Yeah. There's no other answer. There's no
wrong.
other way out.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
If Cloverfield, the original one, I don't know if you noticed or not, but at the end, like after they nuked Clovey, and I was looking up theory videos a while ago. I was just staying up till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. just on YouTube, and there's they nuke New York, like Central Park. They load their monster in Central Park, and they nuke it, and it destroys the helicopter that the main characters are in, and they all die, spoiler alert, and then at the end, they're like, is it alive? Like at the very last, in the credits, like it's not a stinger, it doesn't show like footage, it's just, they just ask if it's alive, and there's no answer. But and like YouTube theories, they found out, I don't know how, like they were just, I don't know, I don't know how they do it, but they reversed it in the credits, and then you hear this voice that says, it's still alive, and that's pretty wild.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It was like, was it like military radio?
It was military radio that said it.
It's still alive. We didn't.
So Clovey is still out there, so it could possibly be that grown up
is Clovey.
Yeah. And he can survive a nuke. Maybe he like absorbed it or something. Like, I mean, there's no telling what this creature can do, because like he even gives birth to like. Was
it nukes or carpet bombs?
I don't know. I just assumed nuke. I just assumed they used the biggest artillery they had.
Which how many times in a monster movie have they resulted to nukes?
A lot.
A lot. And they never work.
Yeah. The one thing that throws me off about Cloverfield is that you think it's like this giant dormant monster coming from the ocean, but then there's those little insect-like creatures that are in the subways and stuff too, and they just came out of nowhere and they're never mentioned again.
Yeah,
and it's kind of confusing. But so I wonder, like, if that's the grand scheme of things, because in 10 Cloverfield Lane, they're legit aliens. Like they have ships, dogs,
living ships. I might add.
And like hounds that have like a sense of smell or something. So like, I wonder if those three archetypes are like, the last of the monsters, or if we have like humanoid ones too that are capable of building those ships and stuff like that. Because I mean, those hounds, Clovey, and those little insects, they don't really seem like they're the brains of the operation. They seem to be like more of the artillery and stuff.
Of course, they made it real clear to not get bit by the little guys. And I can't help but wonder, because we don't see exactly what happens. We get an inkling whenever she sneezes, and like there's...
Well, her stomach explodes, too.
Yeah. And I can't
hospital.
help but think, because when
Are you trying to relate this to zombies? Like they become aliens?
well, it kind of. Well, because I was looking at 10 Cloverfield and a video about the aliens, and there are some aliens that when you look at them, they kind of look like Clovey in a way, because Clovey when he stands, he's got like the front two arms and then the back legs, and then the mouth. You know, there was one that stood the same way. The face wasn't the same.
Is this a bigger monster or a smaller?
This was one of the smaller ones, and that kind of struck me as
maybe it's like a larva state or something,
like a very super young state. But I don't know, the that theory about the getting bit thing is kind of out there, but it's just something, you know, rack your brain on
to take note of.
Because I mean, the thing is, we don't know anything. It's just like, because the little guy showed up out of nowhere, which was more terrifying than the monster. But we just don't know, and it's kind of frustrating that you don't know. It's kind of cool at the same time.
Yeah, I wish they would reveal more about it, but I feel like we're just gonna get those snidbits more and more, and then it's just gonna be our theories that kind of shed the light on the lore of Cloverfield.
And I was talking to my friend a while ago, and he said they're geniuses with the way that they release these things, because originally the Cloverfield paradox wasn't called that at all. It was called the God particle, and like that name was floating around the longest time. And they said that they were originally going to release it around summer this year. And then just out of the blue, they were like, oh, remember that movie we said we were going to drop at like summer? Yeah, we're dropping it now. We're dropping it in about an hour. Which is kind of cool in a way, because it keeps you on your toes. You're like, oh, yay, you know. But yeah,
I like those kaiju films, giant monster things. What about Pacific Rim? Have you seen
Pacific Rim? I saw the first one.
How'd you feel about that one? Because those monsters kind of remind me of Clovey in a way.
In a way, I liked it.
Because they do also come from a parallel universe, which connects to your theory, too.
Sure,
about
yeah.
Earth 3 and the monsters of Earth 3.
Right. I mean, I liked it. I'm not too sure about this second one.
Really?
Because,
even with John Boyega?
Yeah, even with John Boyega. And I love John Boyega. Yeah. One of the few good things about this new Star Wars franchise is John Boyega.
Although, in The Last Jedi, wasn't too fond of their arc with him, and I think her name's Rose.
Yeah.
That was a little
Which, don't worry, I'm
going
to give it a little more time, and then we're going to talk about The Last Jedi, and we're going to tear it apart. But, yeah, with Pacific Rim, because I don't know. The first one, like, I can say a few negative things about the first one.
I'm a huge Charlie Hunnam fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blonde guy.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I like him. It's just this second one, I don't know. I mean, you got robots fighting monsters, monsters fighting monsters, and then giant robots fighting giant robots.
Yeah.
It seems like a childhood fantasy come to, fruition, which is one reason why I watched the first one,
Honestly, Cloverfield, though, if they went more in depth with John Goodman's character, I think it would give us a lot of light on the monster. I feel like the next movie should be about that John Goodman character, or at least the organization where he learned all that stuff from. Like, an organization that knows about it but can't get to the public because, I don't know, maybe the government's involved, maybe the public just doesn't believe him or something. But a movie like that would shed some light, but it would probably be too, like, blunt and not as clever as J.J. Abrams would like.
Well, it's like in 10 Cloverfield Lane, The two John Goodman's character, and then the other guy, the only other dude in the whole film. They said that they were near the city when it happened, or at least leaving it, and all they saw was a quote-unquote explosion in the city. And I can't help but think that explosion was the moment the station in Paradox went off. Because that would make a lot of sense. Because at that point, whatever is being merged into this universe was just arrived, you know?
I mean, the merging stuff sounds like it could be plausible. It's the only thing that throws me off of that these things are just monsters that want to kill things is 10 Cloverfield Lane and the spaceships, and that they're actually waging war on humans this time. They're using gas bombs. Like, they're using, like, you know, technology. And it throws me off because Cloverfield, there was nothing like that. It was monsters destroying cities, just killing anything they saw. Paradox, we see Clovey at the end, and he's not, like, in any type of technology. He just shoots out of the clouds, which makes me think that maybe he's just stayed on Earth. Or that thing you said that crashes into the ocean, if that could possibly be, I don't know, maybe like the larva of Clovey, or like him as a smaller individual crashing into the ocean. Maybe he grows from there, but I don't know. Is it aliens or is it monsters? That's the big question for me right now.
It's kind of hard to tell, considering even their quote unquote ships are alive. I mean, it had a mouth, like it's living. I don't know. Because on one hand you have a monster attacking, and on the other hand you have aliens attacking. And then you have this movie which apparently is not a sequel nor a prequel. It's happening at the same time. That's what they said. They said it's happening at the same time as everything else. So I don't know if it's kind of a coincidence that they were to bring this in, not call it a sequel or a prequel. It's just mind-boggling. Because I'm very interested in the next film that they bring out. Which will probably be a little bit, which kind of sucks, but it'll be a bit, but it's worth the wait. But
I just wish they would reveal more if they're going to have these huge time gaps between movies.
But you wouldn't have so much fun theorizing if it answered questions. That is. Which, I mean, they kind of tease you with it. They'll bring it in, and it's like, okay, we'll answer this question, which means absolutely nothing. Then we'll answer this question that means a little something, but not enough to have you stop.
And then here's 50 more questions.
And then here's 50 more questions. Have fun.
So, cinematography-wise, let's do each movie. I don't know, like story, setting, like more movie-related qualities instead of like the plot and the lore and stuff. Like, let's pick out the meat and potatoes of movies.
Well,
these movies.
In the beginning, with Cloverfield, it of course it's set in the one city that you always got to put a monster in.
New
York, baby. And of course you've always got to wreck the Statue of Liberty. Always. That's a given.
Yeah. Day After Tomorrow did it. Was it Independence Day that did it too? I'm not sure.
I'm sure they did. But as mentioned before, it is every bit of it shot in a camera, like handheld camera view. And it is kind of disorienting with the, like, of course they have to make it look authentic. Yeah. Like it's actually being filmed.
There was a lot of cases of motion sickness when that movie came out.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when they're running for your life, you're feeling like you're running with them because you're like, oh my God, stop.
Now you're scared and nauseous.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, I think I liked it in a way. It's like every time, like for example, there was I don't know if I can point out this exact scene and people remember it, but it's like they were running down a street and then like all of a sudden the monster showed up in front of them,
Yeah.
and there's like missiles going by their head, like the military.
And then they look behind them, and there's tanks, and just
and it's like you're in the middle of carnage.
Yeah.
And he's just the guy behind the camera is just he's looking up at the monster. He's looking down at he's like looking at his friends on the other side of the street. You can't hear a thing because of the missiles and it was just. And then you got that tunnel scene down there with the little guys, and like completely dark, and you're hearing noises.
That was some Blair Witch reminiscing. Like,
right.
You're just trying to find these creatures, but the cameraman's just not doing you any justice. You can't really see anything until like one of them's on top of somebody, and he's still recording, which is a little like.
Yeah.
Where's your morals? Yeah.
Of course, I guess they kind of did a good job. The character that they played, that they put as that, was kind of weird anyway. Yeah. But which, as for that character, makes sense that he'd keep filming. You know. And then that night vision comes on, and then you see those things behind him, and then he just takes off. And it's kind of cool when they did that, because even though there's night vision, he's running so much and things are happening that you still don't see anything really until they've got him. It's like this was the first movie with a handheld anything
that you liked.
That
I'd agree with that too. Yeah. I've watched some more recently, but they're not as good. There's one called Creep on Netflix. It's really just creepy, honestly. I mean, it's got its point across, but it's still a little annoying. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna do handheld footage, it's got to be like the setting was perfect in Cloverfield. Like, it was a party, and this guy was just filming the party, and then the monster stuff starts happening, and then he still has the camera, which makes sense.
Right.
And it was just thrilling to see him run through the city and stuff with that camera. But I think that motion sickness did like get to them, because or at least the director took that into J.J. Abrams took it into account, and he hasn't done it anymore yet. And 10 Cloverfield Lane, it was totally changed.
It was totally different.
Yeah, and the setting was different too. Like Cloverfield, they just had New York to run about. The subways, you see it all. And then Cloverfield is in this tight bunker.
Yeah. And it's just... the bunker, like... It'd be kind of hard to film in something that is like... When we talked about Train to Busan, the biggest thing about filming is that you're filming on a train car. And that's very small. But, yeah. Of course, they had some really good shots with that film.
Yeah, they did. The shot of the lady coming at the door and screaming, "Let me in, let me in."
Yeah.
There's also theories about that woman, too, that she's actually... she knew who John Goodman's character was, and that's why she made that drive all the way out there. And it turned out to be someone... It was that girl, actually, that was in Cloverfield Paradox. He was... Or that character with the last name, I don't know if it's still John Goodman or not, but he was talking to, some, Fox News, reporter or anchor, and that anchor, they say that's her, because they find out later, or she found out later, that everything he was saying was true, and that there was monsters and stuff. But
I have to look at that. I didn't catch that. I was too busy looking at that last name of that guy, and I'm like, is that nah?
It kind of has the same look about him too. Maybe he just
I didn't even see the name
because he was in that bunker for a while. Because he even had another girl in there too before. The one we're at now.
Yeah.
Which that whole thing was crazy.
And the effects on it were pretty cool. With I can't think of its entire name. It was the acid. When
the Breaking Bad acid, where it melts the body.
I'm not the only one that thought of Breaking Bad when he brought that out, and I was like, oh, about to make a dude smoothie. But when John Goodman's character fell into it and it burned his face, and then it showed him again, and then it was just like, ugh, look at your face. I thought it was cool that they built a story in this bunker, and at the same time they're building this other one outside the bunker, because on the inside it turns out that this guy that like they tried to they did portray John Goodman's character as creepy. I mean, because he was creepy when it started, and then they tried to make it seem like, okay, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe he's just he's just trying to look out for people. And then it turns out he had little girls tied up in there at one point, and like, and then he just turns full psycho, shooting that guy in the face and then putting him into the...
Yeah, there's scenes in that movie that are really eerie. Like, it's even before it's revealed and stuff, it's just like, John Goodman's character has like some type of psychological issues. Like when they're at the table and she's like laughing and like looking over to the guy to the right, and he just freaks out. He's just... I think he's like jealous that he's not getting attention either, and he's like, "What's happening?" And they're just like, "What are you talking about? Like, we haven't done anything. We're just laughing with each other." And he's just like not in on the joke, so he's just really upset or something like that. It's vague. I haven't seen it in a while.
It's like, and you can tell that the way she looked, like she suspected that, so she went further to really test her theory. Like, she went as far as, like, I'm going to subtly touch his hand.
Yeah.
And then he went nuts. Like, I don't think he flipped the table over, but I think he was like, that was something like that.
He, like, banged on it or something.
Yeah. It was like... They did a very good
acting.
Job.
It was really good acting.
Yeah. Really, really good.
And then we get the paradox, and you kind of get that same enclosed area setting, but it's on a spaceship this time, and it's multiple people now, so there's like relationships that are built and stuff. Like you get that what's that character's name? He plays the German. What's the actor's name? He's in Star Wars too.
Yeah,
he's a really good actor, but
I can't remember his name. In
Earth 2 he was a spy. In Earth 1 he isn't. And that whole thing was confusing for a while to me, and then I realized, oh, okay, in Earth 2 he was just a German spy.
I mean, it's like with this film, it's like things are being merged together in a way, and while the characters have no earthly idea what's going on, neither do you. Like, you're like, when that guy's arm was absorbed into the thing, and then like it wasn't exactly cut off to the point where it's bleeding, it's just there, and then you hear that metal clanking, and at first I was like, it's gonna be one of those little guys from the first Cloverfield. No, it's the hand crawling around. And it's just like, what is this? Yeah,
that was weird to me. I was trying to find an explanation for that for the whole movie. I was like, how did that happen? Like, because I barely understand parallel universes as it is. Like, Rick and Morty taught me some, but not everything. And then I think it was like, so like in the paradoxes, like they would probably do the same thing, have the same job, like maintenance and stuff. So maybe their two was just so close to each other in the same parallel universe or something that it kind of just like merged together, and his hand, I guess, went inside, just because it's like a point of like penetration of parallel universes. So like maybe, I don't know, physics are broken and stuff.
It's like bending reality, making things weird. And
that girl that was in the wiring, that was insane.
That was like,
that was really good special effects. It was all practical too. Like, none of those wires were CGI or anything.
Did you ever watch Life?
I've never watched that.
Okay, really good film, but I kind of got Life vibes throughout the whole thing. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. It's been out for a while. I just recently watched it, and it's like it's exactly like the trailers portray. Like, the whole thing's in a space station, and they find, quote unquote, life from Mars, and it kind of grows into something worse. And I throughout the entire Cloverfield Paradox film, I was just expecting something to show up in there, like some sort of creature to be in there. And it kind of shocked me that it didn't. It was more on the sense of, I think the only villain in the whole thing was the lady in the wires, which I can't remember her name, so we're just going to refer to her as Lady in the Wires. She ended up being the bad guy at the end. Of course, I suspected it through the whole thing. I didn't trust the lady at the whole, It's just the way they filmed that. And I'm not sure. Was the hand CGI?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Well, even in the case?
I think at some points it might have not been, but through the majority of it moving and stuff, it was CGI.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, you kind of couldn't tell. You can tell.
Yeah.
But, it's not...
The meat section of it, his arm, that was very obviously, green screen CGI'd.
Right. And it's like... Oh, that guy that had, worms put into him.
That was...
And, I knew the moment they showed those worms just in those cases, and I was like, those are going to get out, and those are going to be a problem. And then it was it was so nonchalant, too. He walked by and he looked at the case and was like, huh, worms are gone.
Yeah.
And then later they start coming out of him, and he's like, found them.
Oh, the scene right before that, when he finds out he actually has something wrong with him, and his eye just looks the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's terrifying. I'm pretty sure that's happened to me, when I've been inebriated, just looking in a mirror, and then I'll, look down, but my eye will stay there, and I don't know if it's, hand-eye coordination or if I got worms in me or something.
And then even in this, if this guy didn't have enough troubles, it turns out that little power source was somehow put into him. So it's they had he's dead, and they still have to cut him open just to get it out.
The gyro.
The gyro. That's what's right. Yeah.
It was still in his stomach.
It was a great film. It even though it caused a lot of questions and you had no idea what was going on, it was still a really good film.
Mm-hmm. He had no clue where it was going, too, because it starts off in the streets, traffic and stuff, on Earth. And you're just okay, well, how does this get to a spaceship? And it turns out she's, what is her job on the spaceship again, isn't it? Because, she's replaced by somebody else in Earth, too. She's not on the spaceship. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. She's very crucial, because apparently they couldn't do it without her.
Yeah.
And... Of course, with her, I had troubles with her character. I think everybody else did too. The whole thing was going to a whole another universe where there's another you.
Yeah.
And it turns out their life is better because they made different choices.
Yeah.
And you want to ruin that by going down there yourself.
Yeah, she contemplated taking that escape pod.
Yeah. Which she ended not up.
But it's kind of an understandable reason, but the whole time I was don't do it. You stupid person, don't do that. That's going to ruin everything even more. And, for a while I was okay, she's the reason that these monsters are here. She's going to ruin the paradox. Something's going to happen.
And it kind of brings time into the situation, too. Because now you're messing with not only reality, but you're messing with time. And there's one rule of time. Don't mess with time.
Yeah, the butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect. And even leaving that message for her. And I was thinking, that's going to mess something up still. Even if she does get it. That's still going to mess something up.
Yeah, but she did. Is that what you're saying? She left that message?
She left that message. Yeah. And it's it's going to be weird because the way, because apparently technology is they got way better stuff than we do.
Yeah, but they're limited. They have limited resources too, which is why she was stealing. What was it, electricity or something?
Stealing. Yeah. Well, they're on the brink of another war.
Yeah.
Because they're running out of resources, running out of ways. That's why they were doing the stations.
Trying to find infinite amounts of resources.
And I thought it was cool how the other Earth was already at war. They already failed, and they're already killing each other and stuff like that. I love how...
With the explosions and paradox, so focusing on the husband, when he was down there with the little girl saving her, the little girl that you said looked lost and kind of from a different universe, the explosions and stuff, it's hard to tell where that was coming from. For a while, I thought it was monsters, and just now when you said, they were already at war and stuff, maybe that was the start of the war in Earth 1, those explosions and stuff. I'm not sure. There wasn't really any,
Well, when he found the girl and she was standing in front of a burning building, which was an amazing shot, I'll have to say. Yeah. And then they look up in the smoke. There's a shadow of something huge, which I was thinking, Clover.
Yeah. But it's just hard to tell, though, because, it's not revealed. So, am I just seeing something? Is that put there to make me think that it's Clover? Or what? Because this movie's pretty crafty, these movie franchises. I don't know if what I'm thinking is right or if what I'm thinking is wrong. I mean... And that's a paradox, I guess.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. It's a paradox. But I was thinking myself, at the beginning of the movie, I was thinking, okay, this is Cloverfield, the first one, from another person's perspective. And then the more I went on, I'm like, what if this is the same guy, but we're looking at two different people from two different Earths? Like I said, the first time there was an explosion, we didn't see where it came from or what made it. Mm-hmm. So what if this is Earth 2 already at war? And then we go and we cut to the shot with the little girl, and we see that shadow back there. This is the first Earth, So, which, of course, at the end, whenever they were landing back on, supposedly, Earth 1, he was screaming at that person on the phone, don't tell them not to come down here. They are still out there. And I couldn't help but wonder, does he mean the aliens? Does he mean the other countries that are at war with them? Or does he mean, a bunch of Cloverfield monsters?
Yeah.
It's...
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this technology that they're doing, this is just theorizing at this point, but this technology of infinite resources and stuff is the next step for humans to become that,
right,
first, generation race where they can, go out in space and become a viable, enemy for these aliens. So the aliens are just trying to get it, before it starts. And that's when we got 10 Cloverfield Lane and stuff. It's just an eradication of humans, really. They just go to the most populated cities. They kill anything they see. Maybe it's they're trying to stop this from happening. Because humans, we don't have a good track record with, survivability of our surroundings. We just ruin everything. So if we get the ability to live forever, we're going to go to other places and probably ruin those places, too. So,
which... other alien species, if they're out there, would see that as a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, what would you rate the Cloverfield franchise?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Mainly because there have been very few franchises, especially movie franchises, that have made me think this hard.
Yeah.
The what-if scenarios that can actually be possible with this is just mind-boggling. There are a few things. The reason why I didn't give it a full 10, but...
it's just the questions for me. It's just, it's too much at some point. I need at least some answers.
Yeah, it's like you ask the 5 W's of the whole thing: who, what, when, where, why, and even how. So it's just...
And none of those are answered. None of those are answered. The only what is monsters are attacking, I guess. Or aliens. Not sure.
Not sure. In one scenario, it's monsters. In another, it's aliens. And in another, it's humans.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. I would probably give it a 7. Just because of those questions.
Yeah.
It's a little infuriating. I just want some answers. But, good movies are... the way the movies are made, probably, around a perfect score, maybe a little bit less. But, story-wise, probably a 7. Just because there isn't really much of a story. It's just a mismatch of, this universe.
That's right. Most of the story, you have to make up yourself.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, is kind of genius, but in other ways, kind of evil. Because, you watch
you never know what's true, and then you're stuck in that paradox. Is this right? Is this wrong?
Which I truly believe was their intention with
Yeah,
the new movie, was
probably.
to make you stuck with them.
I also heard that it wasn't, like, J.J. Abrams didn't really get his hands on it. It wasn't supposed to be a Cloverfield movie until, like, after the fact.
That's what I heard.
He went in and put in the Slusho and the company and just made those little tiny connections to Cloverfield and the giant Cloverfield monster at the end, which is a direct connection because it looks exactly the same.
Right. I mean,
Except
which I said it was called the God particle before it was ever called the Cloverfield paradox. So I think it was supposed to be something completely different.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were thinking about doing both. They're thinking about doing a movie called The God Particle and then doing a Cloverfield movie. And then they realized, what the heck are we going to do for another Cloverfield movie? So they were just like, let's just merge it with God Particle and just call it the Cloverfield paradox. It's the same thing.
I don't know, man. J.J. Abrams is a mastermind. I'm sure he's got something for us in store.
Yeah. Like,
something in store for us anyways.
that's like, I'm pretty sure, like, the few things that I liked in Star Wars Episode 7 was because of him.
Yeah.
It's like, cause I'm not a big fan of the story of that, but the way it was shot and the effects were amazing.
He's really good at leaving the audience with questions.
Right.
Because after Force Awakens, I had a lot of questions, too.
Mm-hmm.
I know Mark Hamill wasn't happy with what he did with Luke.
He was not. Nobody was.
Yeah.
I think he's coming back for...
I still wasn't happy with Rian Johnson either. They didn't do that character justice, I feel like.
Yeah. Who'd he play?
No, he's the director of
Oh, okay.
Episode 8.
Oh, yeah. Well, he completely squashed everything that J.J. Abrams ever did. Like, all the questions were just thrown out
Or even
the
George
window.
Lucas. Like, Luke used to stand for something. Now he's just, like, this old man who's just, I don't know, not the same.
I hear that there's a totally new director for 9, but I hear J.J. Abrams is going to, put his hand in just a little bit.
Maybe add some Slush Show references.
Maybe add some Slush Show.
That's it.
Yeah, pretty sure that's it. I mean, everything else is just speculation up to this point.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll end it here. And as always, thanks for joining us. If you want to hear from us again, we're here on Fridays at noon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you again next time.